So I'll introduce you now. We're going to
So
the
welcome one, welcome all. I'm here with Matty Davies, recording Alchemy Healing Academy and Winners Only Fit. Today we're talking about shadow work, psychology, how to heal the soul, and awaken humanity to its most divine potential. I'm super excited to be here. First off, Matty, you want to get us live on Instagram so we can get more people
yeah.
in the call?
Just give me. Oh, I need you to request. Yeah, I need you to request. Oh, here we go. I've invited you. So, guys, we're with the great Odysseus Andrianos. We're just waiting for him to load in. There we go. He's in now. You can't even see my head.
Yo, hello everybody. Great to be here. Excited to chat about all this beautiful wisdom we got going on today. We're on Zoom and on Instagram Live. So beautiful stuff, guys.
Yeah. Good.
Turn down my volume.
Do you want to wait for a few people to come in, or should we just get straight with the question?
Well, let's just you're gonna be emceeing, man. So why don't you talk a little bit about yourself first and then you run the show, okay?
Okay, so obviously the guys know me. I'm a coach from the UK. One the aspects I specialize in. Oh, I need to take the volume off because I made my voice twice.
Yeah, turn that volume down. Welcome everybody tuning in. Welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Hear me? Yeah, all good, all good. Okay, so I've been a coach now for around 10, 11 years. Um, helped numerous people from different backgrounds. I've got most of my strengths are based in obviously strength training, fat loss mindset, and just trying to build people up internally so they can grow and become better people, look better, feel better, and obviously live better as well. So yeah, that's that.
Beautiful stuff, man. We need more of that in the world. So yeah, man, you're here to interview me. So you run the show and give me some questions.
Okay, so guys, those of you who are watching on the live, we've basically myself and my clients have brought some questions up, and what we're going to do is we're going to ask Odysseus, and he's going to answer them. And if any of you have any questions in, be sure to leave a little comments as well. So the first thing I wanted to ask you, Odysseus, was tell us a little bit about your journey and your accomplishments leading up to this point.
Yeah, so basically, it all started out when I was a little kid and being a fitness coach, and got my degree in kinesiology from San Diego State University. And what I realized is, well, first off, I just wanted to beat the system. I was like, this place is whack. I didn't understand like why so many people were suffering in the world, like with diet and exercise, and just seeing people physically unfit. And so that's how I got started, is learning how the body works. And the deeper I got into understanding how the body works, it actually got me into understanding how the mind works. Now, to go a little bit more in my background, I built my own gym when I was 24 years old. And after a few years, I launched a second gym with a corporate $100 million a year corporation. And I was running those gyms. I was running my own gym for 11 years, opened the second gym, which I ran for 5 years. And when COVID hit, I had to shut those down. And it was actually a beautiful thing. I feel like a lot of us, we had to like really face ourselves going through that process. But even before that, I started getting more into more mental and emotional health specifically. And that's something I really want to talk about today, is emotional health. Because you could teach somebody how to exercise, you teach them how to eat healthy. But if they don't do that inner work to acknowledge their emotional pain, they're still going to struggle on the surface. And that's what we talk about doing shadow work, is going deeper into those unconscious aspects that are affecting our performance on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely, absolutely, man, absolutely. When I read your book for the first time, one thing what it taught me was to notice my negative emotions and stop trying to avoid them. And I think right now in this world, a lot of people are trying to shut their emotions down, their negative emotions down, by scrolling on social media, noticing the triggers, feeling like you've got to do better, and it's like a perpetuating cycle that's obviously damaging and hurting people as well.
Yeah, man, I totally feel you on that, especially the gnosis part and then like numbing themselves out, because people don't know how to do this work. I mean, years ago, I didn't understand why so many people are suffering, like especially like older generations, like the baby boomer generation. Like what's up with the baby boomer generation? Like what are they doing? And then when I started studying psychology, I realized that we didn't even know what PTSD was until 1980. I started to really have a lot more compassion for other people because I realized how little we know about psychology. And to be specific, what is psychology? Psyche means soul, and it's really the study of the soul. So that's what we're here to do, is really understand who we are on a deeper level. And as I mentioned, I have my degree in kinesiology, which is the study of human movement. But essentially, our human movement is a manifestation of our own soul or our psyche. And as we learn how to navigate our emotional frequency, that's when we really set ourselves free from the chains of our past. And I love that you said the word gnosis, because it really is the knowledge that we have to integrate. And that's a key word there, is integration of these things that we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of answers the second question in terms of why should people listen to you. So in light of what you've just mentioned, is anyone getting an echo there?
Yeah, a little bit. And thank you to the people who just started following me. I appreciate it.
How's that?
It's good for me, man. It's a little better.
Yeah. Okay. What does the ideal world look like to you?
So the ideal world to me would be people who understand how the unconscious mind works. Now, we can get more into what that means specifically, but it's like many people are walking around and they're projecting all their wounds at each other. We live so disconnected, and a lot of that comes down to our nervous system. And we have disharmony within our nervous system, and we don't understand how our mind works. We're going to live in this world of shadow projection. And that's essentially where a lot of the world is today, is because a lot of people don't know how to do this work. But when you actually acknowledge those darker, repressed aspects of the psyche, the repressed, suppressed, and denied emotions, this is when, like I said before, we set ourselves free, because many people are walking around in this space where they're carrying their generational pain. They're carrying those wounds from their past. And this is why I love having these conversations about it, because, like, it's great to teach fitness. Like, I still teach fitness part-time, but we need to have these deeper conversations. And that's why I published the book, Shadow Awakening, available on Amazon. It's only $15. I want to make it very affordable for people to do this work. And thanks again for buying my book, brother. But for me, the ideal world would be people living in harmony with yin and yang energy. And when I say yin and yang, we can talk about that more, but it's understanding a balance between our masculine and feminine energy. When we say yin and yang, it's like our giving energy, which is yang, and our receptive energy, which is the yin, which is the feminine. And I feel like men and women are struggling with that yin energy. We don't know how to be in that receptive mode. We're not allowing ourselves. That's a key point, allowing ourselves to be in that receptive mode. And what a lot of people struggle with, this isn't even my opinion, I'm being trained by a Taoist shaman right now. I'm also working with an Oriental medical doctor, becoming a certified quantum healer, is that much of our chi is up in our heads. We're thinking about thoughts that we thought we had been thinking that we thought about, but did we think about it enough? And we're driving ourselves completely nuts. We have to learn how to drop that chi down into our physical body. When I say allow, that's the key point. You can't like, well, I'm going to force my chi into my body. You have to allow it to drop into the body. And as you become more harmonized within your psyche and calming that nervous system down, that's where we create the space where the chi can drop into the body. And this is the essence of my teaching. We can learn to become our own healer. And many people don't like, oh, heal yourself. Like, I have to go to a doctor and take drugs. I have to go to a therapist for years. I personally believe within 3 to 6 months, and it's different for each person. I want to make this too generalized. Within 3 to 6 months, most people can actually learn how to heal themselves. And what heal means just means to make whole. And this comes down a lot to understanding those repressed, suppressed, and denied emotions. And as we do this work, my favorite part about teaching this stuff is that we're able to get more people who can actually heal their family, heal their generational wounds. You can support other people that you love. And this, like I said, we're able to set ourselves free from all this delusion and illusion we have in society where people are disconnected from their heart. What's the leading killer out here in America? Heart disease. I don't know if it's the same there in the UK, but people are so disconnected from our hearts. And that comes down to like the chi being in our heads. We're not feeling our emotional pain. If we don't feel it, you can't heal it. So you got to feel it to heal it. That's a key point here.
It's that lock in the conscious mind and the focus on logic and being realistic, so to speak, that people try and force things as opposed to allowing certain things to happen and following their own intuition as well. Boss, lovely answer, man. So there's people on here who are going to listen to this and That's proper echoing, isn't it?
What's that?
Is that echoing for you?
Yeah, there's still a little bit of an echo. It's okay. It doesn't bother me.
As long as it's not bothering anyone else. Oh, I should fix that. So is it echoing on your side as well?
Yeah, a little bit.
How's that now?
I'm gonna turn down the volume on my Zoom. So here. There we go. Keep talking.
Um, so the other question was, there's people obviously who are listening now when there's only fit as a double echo, and obviously that's what we're trying to fix. Thanks for letting us know. The next question was, what is for these people? What is shadow work in layman terms?
So shadow work is essentially making the unconscious conscious. The more we actually get into the depths of what shadow work is, it really comes down to Jungian psychology. But if we actually go deeper, it really comes down to Taoist philosophy. So as I started studying more and more into this process of shadow work, I began to realize that it's really based on ancient Taoist principles. So when I say Taoist principles, Taoism is really about harmony with nature. And so when we get into the deeper aspects of this, it is really comes down to understanding the depths of the psyche, like I said, the soul. And so the more we have repressed or suppressed or denied emotions, we're not going to be able to access our greatest potential. It's like literally where our blocks are deep within us. And so my dad said, repeat the question. Thanks, Pops. So what is shadow work? Shadow work is making the unconscious conscious. So when we're actually able to access those deeply repressed emotions, like I'll give you an example to make it more clear. So it's like when you're a little boy or you're a little girl and you're reaching out to your parents to be loved, like I want to be loved. And then your parents may have their trauma and they shame you. And then you're like, I just want to be loved. And then your parents shame you. And you're like, you're just a little boy or girl and I just want to be loved. And then you get shamed again. And so your unconscious mind will begin to associate love with shame. And so then you're an adult and you're like trying to date and you keep attracting people who shame you and like, why does this keep happening to me? You have these horrible relationships, but it's because you haven't faced that part within your psyche or your soul that is associating love with shame. And now that's just an example. It could be another emotion like grief, anger, fear, a sadness. And the more you repress or suppress these aspects of your psyche, then you're going to continue to see it showing up in your external world. This comes down to natural laws of the universe, as within, so without. So if it's not faced internally, you're going to continue to face it externally. So that's the key point here when we talk about doing shadow work. It's facing those dark aspects of the psyche or soul. And when we actually do that, the beauty of it is that 90% of your shadow is pure gold. It's just sifting through that 10% of darkness that sets us free. And that's why you get support from a coach or a community. Like my long-term vision is to build a community of shadow workers so we can have these conversations and talk more about this stuff. Because when you have support, you can do this alone, but it's a lot more challenging. When you have support and you have the proper tools, it's much easier to do this work. But it's essentially, I teach people how to be a gold digger. You're digging for gold within yourself.
Great answer. Now, I'm speaking. Is everyone able to hear me? Okay, there's no echo.
It's good on my end.
So there's no echo now.
Yeah, it seems good.
Okay, good, 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 good. Okay, so next question is, how are people able to notice the symptoms of a repressed shadow within themselves in terms of physical ailments? So we spoke personally between ourselves a few weeks ago. We were talking about like knee pain can be feel where you feel a little bit stuck, things like this. I'd done a few stories before announcing that we were going on a call, and I was basically speaking about people who feel stuck and stuff. So I just want to see if I will want you to elaborate on the different associations between the body and the mind, and how pain can reflect in our joints and things like this as well.
Yeah, beautiful. So this isn't even my opinion. I want to make sure I'm clear about that. This is based on a lot of my studies and then working with this Oriental medical doctor who's been mentoring me. is that we can talk about what's called five element theory. And this is based on ancient Chinese medicine or a Taoist alchemy. And so different emotions affect different organs of the body, or what's called the five viscera. So we have like the five viscera, the five primary organs that run the body. And there's yin and yang aspects of that too. I could sit here and do a whole presentation on this, which is what I actually do. But we have like anger is held in the liver, grief is held in the lungs, fear is held in the kidneys, like your adrenal glands. You feel fear, right? Anxiety is held in the stomach. Joy or lack of joy is held within the heart. And so when you're talking about like the joints, like certain types of diseases like fibromyalgia, cancer, heart disease, a lot of this it's because we're holding on to that emotional frequency within the body. Because even doctors like Dr. Joe Dispenza, they've measured how different emotions have different vibrational frequencies. And so when you hold on to a lower vibrational frequency, it'll actually affect your physiology. This is where Western medicine needs to start connecting with Eastern medicine, because in the West, we're like, oh, you feel an emotion, just take a pill for it. And the pill doesn't actually heal you. It only deals with the effects. When we're talking about becoming your own healer, the root of that is actually getting to the cause. The causes are what creates the effects. And so we begin to understand how we can work with these five viscera, and there's also yin and yang aspects of these five viscera, then you can start to learn how to become your own healer. So specifically like working with like anger as an example, like I said, it gets held in the liver. And so like people who drink a lot, they're actually suppressing a lot of that anger. And anger is not actually a bad emotion. It's labeled as bad. If we suppress it, that's where it's going to show up as different blood pressure problems within the body. We're going to hold on to tension within the body because we're suppressing that anger. And then when someone triggers us, it's going to come out in ugly ways. So the key thing here is to recognize the anger. The anger is also associated with the wood element in Chinese medicine. And I'm actually a wood element. So like anger is like it's a beautiful thing, but it's also something I have to watch out for. So the key thing about the wood element is that it can grow through anything. Like you see like plants, and it can actually grow through cement. It just takes time. So learning how to harness the power of these emotions is like exceedingly powerful in terms of breaking through any blocks that you're experiencing. A lot of our society is like, oh, don't feel those emotions, suppress them, coming back to the analogy with the drugs and whatnot and the cause and effect. But learning how to harmonize your emotions, that yin and yang aspect, is what gives you tremendous power, because then you're able to understand, oh, my emotions are actually a superpower. Because emotion, it's energy in motion or it's not. And those stagnant emotions are the root cause of so many diseases within the body. This is why I started getting into Eastern philosophy, because I was going to Western medicine. I had back pain, going to doctors, therapists, chiropractors, and it all kind of helped a little bit, but I wasn't getting to the root cause. It wasn't until I started working with shamans and healers and started understanding these Eastern principles where I realized, oh, it's me holding on to this emotional pain that's holding me back. So I had to go through my own journey of understanding that I've been repressing a lot of my own anger and childhood traumas. And the more you go into that stuff, as I mentioned before, this is what sets you free. It's the absolute gold hidden within the darkness. So I always make the joke, I teach people how to be gold diggers, because once you access that gold and you heal that emotional pain, this is when you create the greatest freedom in your life, because you can learn to heal thyself. You learn to become whole. Does that answer your question pretty good?
Very good, man. Very good, very good, very good. I think people are really going to benefit from the knowledge you're given. Obviously, we've spoke quite extensively over the past few weeks on these topics, and it's good to listen and learn. Um, so we've got a question from one of my clients now, um, and they've asked for it to keep and not stay anonymous, and I'm just going to read it out. Basically, they said they've done things in the past that they're really not proud of, and they're asking for advice on how to deal with toxic shame.
So, so there's a range of tools that I teach, and it depends on each person. But one of the first things that I teach people how to do is to get grounded. A lot of people, it comes back to like the chi being up in the head, because I tell people, like, your ego should be in the passenger seat of your life. You don't want it running your life. You don't want your mind running your life. Your body has innate wisdom. So the first step is grounding yourself. So something that I actually learned from the Oriental medical doctor who's been coaching me is you do something called central channel breathing. This is one of the foundational principles. Even with fitness, I go teach people, you can't dunk before you learn how to dribble. You got to learn how to do a squat before you can do a clean and press. So when we're talking about the healing aspects, we have to learn to harmonize our breath. 70% of our chi comes in through our breath. So in order to ground ourselves, central channel breathing means that you breathe into your belly, or what's called your hara or your jing. It's called hara in Japanese. So you're breathing deep down into your belly, and then you exhale into the earth. You inhale back into your belly, you exhale up into the heavens. You inhale into your belly, you exhale down into the earth. So what this does, you're not going to do this just like in one session. You know what I'm saying? You have to do it multiple times. So what that does, it allows you to really get connected to that central channel of your body, connecting with your chakras. And as you begin to connect more with your body will start to release those emotions. You'll be able to access those emotions. That's the key point. But the first step is grounding, just like an electrical wire needs to be grounded in order to work properly. So like I said, different things work for different people, but we have to have those foundational principles. If your body is not grounded, you're not going to be able to change those emotions, because that's how we shift the electromagnetic frequency that we're experiencing with those emotions: shame, anger, guilt, sadness. There's other levels of that, but we have to ground ourselves first. As we ground ourselves, it comes back to the nervous system. Our nervous system is essentially an electrical system. And so as we ground ourselves, doing breath work, doing different types of meditations, that allows us the space to create introspection, because oftentimes our shadow will be hiding right in front of us. So like when we're dealing with shame, like an example, this is myself. I kept myself so busy. I was running my 2 gyms. I was running my film studio. I was running an Airbnb. I had an online business, and I was so busy, I didn't have time to have introspection. And so it wasn't until I grounded myself and calmed myself down, I was able to work with my anger. As I got deeper into my anger, then I got into the grief that I had been experiencing and suppressing. And as I got into that grief, I got into the abandonment that I experienced. So oftentimes when we say shame, that could be a surface level emotion. It's different for each person. But as you begin to access those surface level emotions, I always say in shadow work, you got to find the thread, keep pulling the thread until you get to the root cause or core conflict. So that's a simple way of answering your question. It's really specific for each person, and I have different array of tools that people can utilize. This is why I'm in the process with my dad, who's actually watching right now. We're building a whole school to teach this stuff called the Alchemy Healing Academy, because we need to understand the foundational principles first. And as we access those, we continue to use those foundational principles. It's like I said, it's like digging for gold. You're digging. It may take a few weeks, may take a few months. Some people may take a few years, but it's worth it in the end, because instead of you carrying that shame through the rest of your life, you're able to set yourself free from that stuff. And that is the most beautiful thing you can do in this life.
Excellent, man. I love the way you speak. Very, very, very articulate. So next question is, how was your experience during the pandemic? Obviously, you touched on it briefly before.
Yeah.
Many of us in the UK struggled a lot with how things were, and I'm sure it was the same in America. So yeah, the question is, how's your experience? A lot of us have obviously dealt with a lot of trauma that we've had to deal with in that regard. So obviously you're equipped with so many different school tools and skills in terms of your knowledge on psychology and things. So in respect of that, how did you handle things that were going on?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, going through COVID was like this beautiful awakening for me. And I feel like I'd been kind of preparing for it for a long time. Before COVID, my mother, like 6 months before, my mother had been diagnosed with cancer.
Oh,
And and she's totally fine now, so she's cool. But it took me through this journey where like I was already kind of like avoiding people because I didn't want to get sick and bring it home to my mother. So it was like almost like I was training for COVID before it happened. And like going through the emotions of seeing my mother lose all of her hair and go through that healing journey, that like on some level prepared me. It's like sometimes the universe just like it throws crap at you, and that crap becomes your fertilizer. But when COVID hit, it was like an identity crisis, and I'm sure a lot of people experience a similar thing, where like I had identified as this fitness coach, like world class fitness coach, running my own gym, running another second gym with a huge corporation, and living the fitness coach's dream. And even though I'd been preparing for years, all of that collapsed. And what happened was, the beautiful thing is my dad, who's on this call, is we built a camper van. I started traveling, and I started traveling all over the United States and exploring places. And that's when I started writing my book and creating my video course. But it was, like I said, an identity crisis, because it really forced me to get clarity on like, who am I really in this world? Even though I had been great as a fitness coach, like I really had been wanting to go deeper in becoming a life coach and becoming a certified quantum healer. I'd already been attracting healers and coaches and whatnot, and life coaches into my fitness coaching practice. Like, if you guys ever seen the movie The Secret, I was coaching people from that movie many years ago, and I'm like, wow, these life coaches, like, where's this, what are limiting beliefs, like what are these unconscious things that are holding, like, I was like, why don't we just do workouts? And like, it forced me to have tremendous introspection. I'm sure a lot of people went through that too. It allowed me to actually discover like who I really am. And the key thing here is like, when we start to go into that darkness, it can be challenging at first, but going into COVID, it really helped me to understand who I truly am. And it set me free from the illusion of who I was. I had healers and coaches like calling me like, Odie, you're doing fitness, but you're really meant for something bigger and you're afraid of it. And I was like, my ego was like, shut up. I'm meant to be a fitness coach. And having these healers call me out allowed me to realize what I'm really meant to do. And so going through COVID gave me clarity, but it really made, like many people, we had to face our darkness. We had to actually sit with ourselves. And that's the beauty of this work. Like I say in my book that there's nothing, or it's a Shakespeare quote, nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And so when we get more into our body, into the innate wisdom that we have within ourselves, that creates tremendous introspection into what's possible for us from a quantum level of consciousness. And like the first chapter of my book, quantum thinking, when we're able to access our infinite potential, we talk about quantum physics, when a particle collapses into a wave. I really feel like that's what happened during COVID. We actually had to get a lot of clarity around who we're meant to be. And that is the beautiful part of this. And that's why we need more coaches, we need more healers, and we need more people doing deeper inner work. And I feel like COVID happened for a reason, to awaken everybody to their potential. The deeper we go, it's like the word, I saw you post this a couple of weeks ago or something, is the word amnatiotremia. Remember we were talking about that? Yeah, I'm probably butchering the word, but not diotremia is when darkness actually turns into light, but we actually have to go into the darkness, face the darkness, and then deep within that darkness, we find the seed of light. And that's why we need more community to do this work. That's why I love talking to you, man, because I know you're all keen to this stuff too, because as we do that work, going into everything that we're experiencing now, like one of my goals is to work with more teens, teaching emotional intelligence as well. Is like, before COVID, you talk about trauma, people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about trauma, no, none of that stuff. Like, but like now, like everyone's got to talk about it. We all experience some level of trauma, or somebody that you love did, and so that's the beautiful darkness that we're experiencing, is now we can finally heal, and people feel more safe talking about those emotional pains. And I am so grateful that I went through COVID, because now I have more clarity around who I am, and I feel like a lot of people are too. But we need to have more conversations just like we're having right now, so people can have those tools, those fundamental aspects that allow them to the introspection to understand, what is your real soul purpose in this life? Are you just here to work at some corporate job and slowly sell your soul away? Or are you here for something deeper? And are you here to heal your soul and show other people that path too? Because that's what I feel like I'm here to do. And I feel like you're doing the same work, brother.
Amazing, amazing. You said something there that was really, it spoke to me at least. Beautiful darkness. Now, in the UK at least, there was a high rise in depression, anxiety, all negative consequences as a result of COVID. And you mentioned there, beautiful darkness. What do you have? The question we've got here is, what advice do you have for people with anxiety or depression? And I think the better way to phrase this would be, where can someone who's maybe listening now, who's got depression or anxiety, where can they find their beautiful darkness within that situation?
Well, the first step is to understand, like I've mentioned before, is the quantum thinking. Because oftentimes when we talk about anxiety or depression is when we're stuck in our past, and anxiety is when we're afraid of our future. And to me, it's more about harmony with yin and yang, right? And it's walking that middle way path between those two. Because the more grounded we are, like I said, dealing with like the shame, kind of talking about some of the same stuff, but we're talking about it a little bit differently, is that we have to be able to be grounded in the moment. One of my favorite things, I know your winners only fit, is that the word win. I learned this from a master coach. He said, win is what's important now. That's what win means. What's important now? Because our mind It can, like, we can be our own greatest enemy. We're like, what's going to happen in the future? What did I do in my past? What are we going to do? Oh my God. And you're creating this slippery slope to all these different things that could happen. And it's just like, oh, you're literally creating your own mental health crisis.
Mm.
So the key thing is here, like I said, getting grounded. I really feel that 90% of humans, 90% plus of human suffering comes down to our disconnection from the earth. And if you take the word earth and you rearrange the words, it's the same, the letters, it's the same as the word heart. And so we have to get back to our bodies, back to our heart. My father always told me, when my father's a world-class sound mixer, he was actually George Lucas's sound mixer when I was a small boy. And he always told me that your ears, if you put them together, they're the shape of a heart. The center of the word heart is ear. So we have to learn to listen. This comes down to the law of vibration, the law of rhythm. And when we learn to listen to our hearts,
Good.
then we can actually understand the truth, because our mind is going to create the anxiety. Our mind is going to create the depression. The mind is not a bad thing. It's beautiful for understanding logic, being able to make logical decisions. But it's those repressed emotions deep within our psyche meaning soul, that we have to access. And this is the part that most people aren't taught this stuff. Like, I had to go through this process too, where I was like, I have no clue how to do this work. And that's where I started studying. I started studying all this Eastern wisdom and studying Western psychology as well. And as I started to harmonize the two, then I was able to create that introspection into, like, I still experience anxiety. I still experience depression. That stuff still comes up for me, but I have a wide array of tools, and I'm able to utilize those tools, because those tools are just, like I said, it's like a shovel. I'm able to dig in what's really going on there deeper below the surface, because oftentimes our surface level emotions are just like, they're just up here. When we actually get down into the root cause or core conflict, that's where the gold can be accessed. And as we access that gold, then we actually discover who we truly are. Because just like in the yin and yang principle, deep within the darkness, there is the seed of light. But we have to be able to access that seed of light by facing that darkness. The darkness is the most beautiful thing that we can actually have. In Taoist alchemy, here's another example, just to give you another analogy. I can sit here and talk about darkness all day. So, like, as I was mentioning, the 5 elements, and like I'm actually creating some presentations on this right now, is that we have the earth, which is like the middle ground, and your body is essentially like the earth, and the earth is associated with the stomach element. Your gut health is extremely important. We can talk about that more too. Above the earth, we have wood, which grows from the earth. And wood actually feeds fire, which is the shen in Chinese medicine. Okay, that's the yang energy, the rising energy. Wood and fire are yang or masculine elements. Now, the earth is the middle element. It's neither yin or yang. It's kind of the balance principle. Now, if we want to do shadow work, if we want to heal our emotional pain, we have to go into the feminine or yin elements. And that's the metal element, which is in the earth. What is metal? Metal is gold. Right? So we have to go into ourselves. And if you go even deeper below the metal element, there's the water element, which is flow state. So one of the issues, and it's actually from, I'll share the book right here. This shaman actually mentioned this book to me. If you ever work with me, I'm going to basically sell you lots of books. 5 spirits. And what it said is that we have to actually go into the feminine. We have to go into our bodies. Whether you're a male or a female, your pelvis is a bowl, and that is where the water gathers. And so the deeper we go into that metal element, the deeper we go into the water, then we're able to bring the masculine fire chi down into that water, and we start to heat up that water. Okay, I'm like, this is a lot longer explanation. Like, this is a fast explanation for something very deep. So as we begin to cultivate those darker aspects in that water element, we're able to bring the fire element, warm up that water chi deep within us in our jing. That's the lower element of the water. And this is what creates what's called a Taoist immortal, because we're actually going into the depths of the darkness. This is what's not taught in society. Most of Western society is grow more wood, burn more fire, but people are burning out. Comes down to the nervous system. We have to go below the surface of the earth, deep within ourselves. We need to surrender to that metal element, surrender to that water element. And as we begin to access those depths of the psyche, the unconscious, the underworld, we're like, underworld, that's evil. It's like, no, it's not. It's just a part of your physical body, and it's within you, right? And in alchemy, they say there's like the external world, there's the internal world. We're not taught how to do this inner work. That's why I love talking about it, because it's the most healing experience ever. As you gain access to that water element, this is what I'm talking about, flow state. This is what I'm talking about when you begin to harmonize the shen with the water. When they begin to commingle, this is what we call the alchemical marriage. Like I said, this is like a really fast explanation for something that's a really deep topic.
Yeah,
but
this is deep stuff. This is deep stuff.
As you mingle that water and fire within you, this is what, like I said, turns you into a Taoist immortal. You don't get sick as often. If you do get sick, you heal faster. If you got shot with an arrow back in way back in the day, you'd heal faster. You'd live longer because your chi is harmonized in the body. So this is what we're talking about. You're not going to do that if you're constantly in that yang energy. You're trying to grow the tree and then burn the fire. You're literally burning yourself out, specifically coming down to the nervous system. If you wish to become your own healer, you have to go into the underworld, find the gold, get into that flow state deep below the surface. And this comes back to like collapsing that chi, dropping it down into the body, and learning how to listen to that innate wisdom that your body has always had. But most people are walking around. Why do people struggle with diet and exercise? Because they're struggling with their mental and emotional health, because we're not having the conversations that you and I are having right now. But no one knows how to do this work. That's what got me like, oh, like after 20 years and 20,000 hours of coaching, I was like, oh, we have to actually go within. It's the yin element, that powerful dark feminine, which people are terrified of. We live current countries in this world that won't even let women share their bodies, show their bodies off. So we have to actually understand what is going on in those deeper aspects of the psyche, because that's where the gold is. That's where we achieve flow state. It's not with being active, it's with calming the body down. We have to know the balance between the active state, which is the yang, and the resting state. This is why, like, you know, you see all these like people who are, they make lots of money. I grew up around extremely wealthy and famous people, but they're dying too young. I personally feel like everyone should live to like at least 100 years old. But I wouldn't want to live to be 100 years old on drugs and limping around. I want to be living in bliss, in harmony, and just feeling amazing. And that's kind of the work. That's what you and I are talking about, man. We have to harmonize being fit and harmonize resting too. What were you going to say?
Yeah. What I was going to mention is when you're talking about diving deep into the darkness and the unknown, is there's a quote, I forgot who it's by, but it goes, the psychotic drowns in the same waters that the mystic swims with delight. And the only difference between a psychotic and a mystic is the level of understanding. But that understanding is only learned through the experience and the actual sitting with those emotions or that experience. Could be like sometimes I'll do certain meditations and it'll activate what you know as Kundalini energy in the body, and you feel like you've smoked weed or something. Like you've had some mushrooms, and it's crazy, like proper psychedelic, and it's just through breath work and sitting with your emotions and things like this. And at first, you're like, "Oh my God, I've lost my mind. I'm scared." You're essentially drowning in those waters. But once you sit with it and you develop a level of understanding, a level of courage, and then you can explain it easier to other people. Um, just a brief one. When I was younger, and up until now, I was like this sixth sense. I literally see spirits, things that come to me, all kinds of different crazy stuff. I was terrified of it for years and years. It was only when I started to learn about these different aspects of reality and the psychology behind it and different things, was I able to develop the understanding and have a better relationship with those experiences. And now people come to me for advice on it, and it's like, what is it? People hate what they can't conquer and fear what they don't understand. So what is this? What essentially correlates with what you've just been mentioning is you will always feel out of control until you develop your understanding. And in this case, the mental health issues that you're dealing with or that you're struggling with are deep or solely down to a lack of understanding. And obviously, this is what you went into now. You got any feedback on that? Do you want to mention or anything before we go on to the next question?
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, that quote is from Joseph Campbell.
This is Joseph Campbell.
Yeah, the hero's journey. Yeah, the psychotics drowns in the same water that the mystic swims. And I've studied a lot of mysticism. And just to be straight, man, years ago, I openly admit, like I feel very comfortable sharing this. I was struggling with my mental health. And then I started studying Eastern philosophy, and I began, that's my pops. I began to study Eastern mysticism and Taoist philosophy. I was like, oh, like I'm not like Westerners. I think more like a Taoist monk or like an Eastern mystic. And like, there's nothing wrong with me. We live in a batshit insane world. And the key thing is learning how this stuff works. This is where like not to get too deep into it, but like religions and government, there's no mystical experience. Shut up and get back to work. You need to make more money. The banks need to get bailed out again soon, so you better work hard. And not to get too deep into that, but like we all
Don't
have,
you know? You're correct. You're absolutely correct.
yeah, but we all have superpowers. I mean, like this is why I'm so like I love talking about this stuff because
Go into it, man. Go into it. I love it. I love it.
when you
Go
talk
in.
about like a sixth sense, or like we could talk about spirituality a little bit and how this
Mhm.
mixes in. Like, what is spirituality? Spirit is just breath. Like you have your spirit and it's your inspiration and your expiration. It's just your breath. You're like, what's spirituality? It's scary. My preacher said, don't study spirituality. It's dangerous. It's just looking within. But this is why so many people are suffering. They don't know how to do this work. And so we talk about spirits, and especially like coming back to like this book on the five spirits, right? Is not to get too deep into it, but like if you abuse alcohol too much and your liver, the spirit of your liver, I believe it's called the Hun, is it'll actually leave you, and then dark spirits will take its place. And so when people don't actually do the work to harmonize their inner alchemy, then dark spiritual energy will actually take them over. This is why people are like, I keep going to the doctor and taking drugs, which is poisoning your liver more in a lot of cases. I don't want to like talk crap about all drugs. There's still some good drugs out there for some people. But when you don't
That's not making much
access,
money.
what's that?
But don't make much profit. That's always
Yes.
the case, isn't it?
I mean, I like my whole vision, man, is like within 3 to 6 months to teach people how to heal themselves and get more coaches like you teaching this stuff too. But like when you have this harmony within your electromagnetic energy field, we talk about like your auric field. And as we harmonize these internal viscera, right? If we don't, then our spirit leaves us. This is what we talk about in Taoist alchemy or healing. This is why, like in Eastern medicine, you want to become your own healer, bring the soul fully into your body. In the West, like soul, what's that? We don't, oh, no time for that. We need to cut, burn, and kill things out of the body and drug you, right? And so the key essence here is as you bring the soul fully into your body, this is when you begin to heal yourself. And I read this recently. Like I'm not trying to say like I'm like have this all mastered, but your spirit is the above and your soul is below. And it's yin and yang essentially. The goal is to commingle the spirit and the soul together in our bodies. And so as they become harmonized, this yin and yang energy, this is where we've learned to become our own healer, because that there's a commingling or alchemical marriage of those aspects within us. And this is why doing the deep shadow work allows that space. I know I keep coming back to that word, allows that space for us to create harmony with those repressed emotions, create harmony with those repressed aspects of our psyche or our soul. And this is where we learn to heal ourselves. We all have these superpowers, or like you said, this sixth sense. But we live in a society that says, no sixth sense. That's dangerous. We need to stay in this masculine, extremely masculine, paternal like society where we have to work harder, and then you die young and then you reincarnate and come back, versus achieving what's called the rainbow body and being able to transcend. When I say transcend, it's ending the trance that we're in. It's like we're at a rave and it's like a terrible song, like, and everyone's just like going completely nuts because we're in this trance. And so that's what this is about, is ending the
And then
trance,
the trance.
transcending the society that we're living in that is slowly killing all of us. And people like, I don't want to talk about that. Just give me a drug and numb me. It's like, no, we're going to have a conversation about how you're a spiritual warrior and you have the power to heal yourself. And we can start putting these $billion drug companies out of business because people are healing themselves in the masses. That's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm here to build, a tribe of people who are ready to do that work. That to me is the reason why I'm here on this call with you, because we need more people to understand this and
Yeah.
realize their innate power, because we all have that ability. We just forgotten. It's written in books. Like one of the shaman I'm working with, she's like, basically in the last 30 years, all this ancient wisdom has been released because you have these shamans and like wizards that are like hidden in Tibet and whatnot. They're like, wait, if we don't start releasing this wisdom, the world's fucked. And so we have to start getting this wisdom out to as many people as possible. And now is the time to awaken our soul. And I'm not saying everybody's going to do this work, but for the people that do want to do this work, who are ready to do this work, there is a tribe, there is a community growing and rising right now, and you can be a part of that. But it's going to take it's like serious work. Like you got to really actually face those inner wounds. But there are people out here who are ready to support you. So just know that you have that community.
Mm. I just want to ask, because I'm sure people will have went, what do you mean by rainbow body? Can you expand on that for us?
Yeah, for sure. And so like, I mean, a lot of what I do in my coaching is, like I said, if I'm when I coach people, I'm often talking about different books. It has to do with this called The Subtle Body. And this is a phenomenal book. And so you see, like, talk about the auric field around the body. And so, like, super deep subject. But in like Tibet, I've studied a lot of Tibetan philosophy. Is the goal is to achieve what's called the rainbow body. It has to do with like the chakras within the body, and when the
Mm.
chakras are out of balance, one of the things I'm learning in my coaching program is how to test people's chakras and clear people's chakras, and they all have different colors. And so the whole goal in achieving what's called the rainbow body is that as you get to the end of your life, it's weird as we live in this materialistic reality where you can't take all that your material possessions with you. The whole goal is to amplify what's called your energetic body, and your energetic body has to do with the harmony of your emotions. You don't want to go into the afterlife without healing your emotional pain. That might get a little bit ugly, not to get too deep into it. But the goal is to create this deep space of inner peace within yourself, right? And this is the, like, long story short, way of achieving that rainbow body, because you transcend your consciousness. They've even said in what's called, there's different practices called FOA, death meditation, or what's called the Zogen meditation practice, where you're actually upon death, you can actually shoot your consciousness out the top of your head. And we're getting into some
They
deep
call
stuff.
it Mahasamadhi as well, don't they?
Yes. Yeah. It's like that deep state of inner peace where, like, whatever's going on out here, you've collapsed so deeply into yourself. And this is where, like I said, the body begins to heal itself, because the nervous system has become so deeply harmonized. And like, your nervous system is like the roots of a tree, right? So, like, this is where I come back to, like, when we talked about your buddy who had the shame stuff, you got to become grounded first. For anybody watching, it's like, how do I get started? Like, I'm actually with my dad. We're building a space in the backyard, and I actually bought some topsoil. We're building a space where we can lay on the earth, we're going to go, we have a meditation space where we can actually sit on the earth and just spend time just doing nothing, maybe have some music, and just sit there and get ourselves deeply grounded, because that is the first step to your healing process. Because most people, it comes back to the yang, everyone's like, I want to ascend, I want to be an ascended master. And like, bro, ground yourself.
Yeah.
You're here now, right? So the more you're actually here in your body now, remember the word win, what's important now is being grounded. So that's the first step. The more grounded you are, this is enatiotremia. The more grounded you are, boom, you ascend. Right? You don't ascend, you have to go down. And that's the feminine aspect, is the earth. That's Mother Earth, right? So the more deeply grounded you are, you go deeper and deeper. Remember the gold and the flow state. Then that naturally, if you don't grow the roots, the tree's not going to grow. Right? It's like, why aren't my branches growing? Like, you didn't grow the roots, bro. Like, you got to grow the roots first. So the deeper you go into the grounding process and your nervous system looking like the roots of a tree, that is how you create the ascension process, by actually being more grounded. So that is a core principle here, is like, how do I get started? Start grounding yourself. More time in nature, more time with your breath, more time connected to your body, getting out of your head, dropping the chi into that pelvic floor, like I was talking about.
Lovely, man. It's nice to learn about the Taoist aspects of this obviously psychophysiological um, improvements. We'll say, if we want to talk more physical term. But yeah, so we've got a few more questions.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure you've stopped the time yourself. Um, how to combat emotional eating in your words?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. So emotional eating. So, like, I would have answered that differently a few years ago when I was more into like just Western perspective. When I was actually talking to the mayor of my city last night, I ran into her at this gym that I work out part time, and we started getting really deep into talking about diet and exercise and like the emotional aspect. So I love that you asked that question. But I'm gonna explain this differently than most people would understand it. From an Eastern perspective, is we talk about the element of earth, and the element of earth is associated with the stomach. This is coming right back to me talking about being grounded. Now, as we age, like when we're at the beginning of life and we go through different seasons, like we're so connected to the earth. Like the beginning of life is spring, the middle of life is summer, then we go into late summer, then we go into fall, then we go into winter. A lot of people, they're still like attempting to eat the same way they did in spring when they're in late summer. So as you go through a change of the seasons, it's more important than ever to become grounded. When people are emotionally eating, it's because they're not grounded, because the stomach is associated with the earth element. We're experiencing that anxiety. So if you really want to change your diet, diet comes from the Latin word dieta, meaning way of life. We have to become more grounded. So what I often recommend to people is to simplify your diet. Keep it simple, silly. The KISS principle is
Mhm.
focus on grounding vegetables. Start eating more of sweet potatoes, more carrots, more beets. What foods are going to ground you more into your body? And the more you can simplify your diet, the better. And if you're like really struggling with your diet, this is something I actually learned from another Eastern doctor, is do what's called the elimination diet. Like you were talking about before we got on this call, doing some fasting. Fast for a few days and then start slowly introducing foods into your diet. And when you find the things that are causing you problems, oh, that's the thing that's causing me issues, and then it comes down to like basic stuff like eating more good fat, cutting out more high glycemic carbohydrates. Then, like I said, coming back to more of those grounding principles, your
Mhm.
diet shouldn't be like don't get me wrong, like once a week I have a day where I just eat whatever I want and enjoy myself. But the rest of the week, I'm really focused on my diet because it's my way of life. I want to get results. But the key thing here is look at your diet or way of life, not as like, oh, I'm gonna have a party and like you're slowly destroying your gut health. They call your gut health your second brain, also known as the mesentery system,
Mm,
right?
that's it.
Is that when it comes to your diet, is that what was I gonna say? Is that when you're not grounded and you're just looking at food as like a way to party, like you're drinking all the time and eating whatever you want, eating fried foods. Don't get me wrong, I love French fries, but if I eat them all the time, I feel like crap. So the key thing here is recognizing that your way of life will really change how your brain functions. A lot of mental health problems are actually because your gut health, leaky gut and whatnot. And so when you're able to actually begin to see food as fuel, when you see food as fuel, how am I fueling my body? How am I fueling my mind? And you stay in that perspective. We're talking about mindset. I'll give you an example. Like my mother, helped my mother lose 60 pounds. She was like, she saw me like coaching all these women. There was a point years ago where they called me the mommy whisperer because I was helping so many mommies lose weight. Kind of creepy, but the mommy whisperer. And she's like, you're really helping all these moms lose weight. And she's like, well, let me try this. So I started training my mom. I got her to lose 60 pounds in 5 months. Why? Because I changed her story around sugar. I'll never forget the day I had these ladies who were a little bit obese and they're in my gym and they're working out. And my mom goes up to them. She's like, you know how I lost all the weight? I started seeing whenever I saw a cupcake or a cookie or a cake, I saw a mound of sugar. And I was like, that's what I told my mom months ago. I was like, when you see a cupcake or a cookie, it's like, because you change your mindset. It's like, what is this really? It's sugar. It's just a mound of sugar. And so that's how I help my mom. So you have to like get really clear on like what are the constituents, what are the micronutrients of these different things that you're putting into your body. Some of these foods have no nutrients and they taste good. Like the other day I was at an event and like they had these like amazing cupcakes. I had a cupcake. I was like I paid a lot of money to go to the event, like I'm gonna enjoy this cupcake. And so like if you earn it, it's okay to do once in a while. I always say if you're like 80 to 90% on point with your diet or way of life, you can have some fun once in a while. It's part of life, but you want to be consistent, and your consistency in seeing food as fuel is what is going to make things a lot easier for you to perform better. And like I said, you want to work on your mental health and your emotional health, work on grounding yourself, and your diet and your stomach is a huge way of doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely a factor. One thing I really prioritize with my clients is to change the perspective on food as not only just something you've got to do, just eat whatever's in the house, more so about utilizing as fuel. If you've got a Ferrari, which if you think about the potential of the human body, you give it dodgy fuel or the wrong fuel, it's not gonna ride as fast as it possibly could. And if you want more, you've got to do more. Not gonna be comfortable initially, but once you develop them habits and you start to reframe and experience the joys of having that little degree of discipline alongside this reframing process that you're going through, eventually it becomes easy, becomes fun, and that's through the nutrition of the food as well, as you've mentioned, which is lovely, lovely, lovely. Um, we've got we've covered quite a few of these. Covered that number 12. Um, so negative self-talk. I'm sure you've noticed it yourself. Like some of my clients, some people in the gym who I speak to, people around the way, they'll, oh yeah, you're looking great, and they're looking well. I go, oh no, I look crap. I feel like crap. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and then they wonder why it perpetuates in the lifestyle or things like this. What is your opinion, or what is your advice for people when it comes to inhibiting themselves when it comes to negative self-talk?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question because it comes back to like what I mentioned before. You could diet and exercise all you want, but what is going on below the surface of the mind? And when we talk about what you just mentioned with negative self-talk, specifically, we're talking about limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are these stories where we say, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of love. Money doesn't grow on trees. My feelings aren't valid. I'm ugly. I'm stupid. I'm a victim. And they're running actually in the subconscious mind. And we have this image that we're holding on to. So, like, we're doing all this stuff consciously to like make changes. But when we're holding on to that image, the subconscious mind only works on images. So we have an image of ourselves as I'm ugly and I'm not worthy of love. No matter how nice your butt looks, you're still not going to feel very good about your butt. You'll be sitting there checking your booty out, doing squats, and you're still not going to feel good about yourself because you're holding on to that image. That's the part where the shadow work comes in, because you start to get more clarity on like, what childhood wound do you have? Maybe you need to work with your inner child and start to actually access where that limiting belief is showing up for you. Because as I mentioned, you can diet and exercise all you want, but you're not going to set yourself free. You're still going to be holding on to those beliefs, and that's not going to allow you to access your greatest potential. So it really comes down to getting like extreme clarity around that. And this comes back to also mentioning like getting calm. Sometimes we're staying really active, you gotta like just sit with it. Like, what's going on there? This is like the shadow work aspect where, what am I really experiencing? What is the core conflict? What is the thing that I'm struggling with that's not allowing me to access my greatest potential? So it's like we have the surface level story, but what's going on? What's the deeper image? That it's also called in Western psychology the engram, the imprinted image, or in Eastern philosophy, what samskara am I holding on to? That's a
I'm Scar. That was what I was gonna say.
Yeah, the
That's very good.
samskara, and that can be generational too. A lot of people have to realize like it's not you. Oftentimes, it's a part of you that's just waiting to be integrated. And as you integrate those parts of yourself, that's where the real beauty is. So it's like a lot of people, they're running away from that. That's why us talking about this and whoever's listening, it's an opportunity for you to have more introspection into what's really going on there, because it's really about you accessing your greatest potential. And it's not going to happen when you're still holding on to these limiting beliefs, because we're all worthy of abundance. We're all worthy of love. And if you're carrying those limiting beliefs around with you, I always say enlightenment is really just having a lighter mind. It's like you're carrying all this baggage and you let it go finally. And then you're set free. And like, it's just like you're living your life, but you're not carrying all these stories. I'm so ugly. I'm not worthy of love. And it's like, once you let that go, how free will you be? It's
Mm,
crazy.
the energy's flowing. Um, so to be honest, these questions that we're looking at now, they're essentially ones we've already covered. With regards to emotional eating, negative self-talk, lack of discipline. So we've got one here with regards to lack of discipline. How to fight the what I'm calling it lack of discipline. It could be lack of confidence as well.
Mhm.
So how to fight the fear of going back to the gym after you've had a layoff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so how to fight the fear? I would say, instead of fighting it, surrender to it.
Mm,
What's the message within the fear? And once you access that, that's what's actually going to give you more potential, because often we're what we call fighting our fear. When we talk about yin and yang energy is the warrior, yin energy is the healer.
is the
And
healer.
And so instead of fighting it, you'll actually make things easier for yourself, because what you resist persists. And so you could fight it, but if you start to listen to it and see what message is deeper within that space, you may have a slower start, but you'll have a stronger finish. They say
Mm.
sometimes if you want to speed up, you got to slow down. Just like the word
Oh man,
training, you got to
that's good.
slow down to speed up. I've had to go through that too, man. I'm like really strong in my yang energy. I'm a 6'3", 220-pound male. I love lifting heavy weights and going fast, but like my greatest healing didn't happen when I was going fast. I had to slow down and begin to really connect with my heart. And so if you're really struggling with those things, like, face the struggle instead of like, oh, well, I'll just do this and I'll do that and I'll stay busy and I'll stay active. That's yang energy. It's really about the yin energy and surrendering to the message your body has for you. There's such deep innate wisdom in our bodies. And most people don't know how to access those places. But it's when we access those places, I keep coming back to that word, allow ourselves to experience those emotional pains. Then you're going to get in shape a lot faster. You know, because like I said, you can have the most beautiful butt in the world, great chest and everything, real strong and fit, but it's really how you feel on the inside. There's a lot of men who train really hard and they're really look really fit on the outside, but inside there's a weeping little child that needs to be honored. And I was one of those men. And I'm still working on myself. I don't sound like I figured it all out. I'm still
I'm
working
still
on that too. But a lot of men, they're like all jacked up on steroids and stuff, and there is a
I
wounded
was, oh man, it's
wounded
crazy.
little boy deep within those men. And there's women who are doing this too. They're like, if I look more sexy, I'll attract more men. It's like, well, like you need to like heal your soul first before you attract the right man into your life. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? It goes both ways. I'm not trying to
definitely.
point the finger at men and women. It's both sides. And so if you're experiencing fear or lack of confidence, face it. Go deeper. It's just that thread, like I was saying, find the thread, keep pulling, get to that root cause or core conflict. There's probably deep wisdom and gold within that space.
Mm, that'll change your life.
Yes.
Have to throw that in there. So last question, very important one. Where can everyone find you besides obviously your Instagram?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Um, Alchemy Healing Academy. Alchemy Healing Academy. My website's alchemyhealingacademy.com. My YouTube channel, Alchemy Healing Academy. Instagram, TikTok. I do videos all the time on all those channels and whatnot. I'll be posting this. I'm recording a Zoom here with you as well. I'll be posting this recording as well on
I've
my
been looking at the Zoom all along.
yeah. And yeah, man, like my whole vision going forward is in my book too, Shadow Awakening, the Dawn of Human Potential. I'll pull one out to show you guys.
Yeah, listen, get this book. Guys, I'm gonna throw you a testimonial now. Guys, listen, this book, everything we've just spoke about for the last hour, this book gives you the tools on once you follow and practice and implement these tools into your lifestyle. I guarantee from my own personal experience, it will change your life for the better. You'll feel more confident. You'll feel more at peace within yourself. You'll you'll feel more energized. Good things and opportunities will flow to you endlessly. Please, please, please make sure you get this book. I met Odysseus on the internet because I was looking for a book like this to learn from. And I remember, if you remember, we was on a Facebook group. And I said, "Does anyone have any book recommendations?" And he says, "I've just made one." And it was a $4 book. And I don't think you'll ever find anything in the world more valuable than that £4, like £4 sterling, or $4, sorry, that I spent. Guys, make sure you get this book. Honestly, it'll change your life. But
Thank you.
I think to conclude it there, if you've got any last words you want to say, by all means, feel free. But it's been an honour and a pleasure to have you on board over the last hour to chat with you. I'm sure everyone else has benefited from it. And yeah, let's go and heal the world, man. Go and do
Yeah,
it.
thank you so much. And that my book is $15 now. That you bought it when it was on the first
We'll be
launch.
cutting you.
But I want to make this work affordable for anybody. And like my long-term vision is to build a tribe of healers and coaches. And if anybody feels like my message resonated with you, my vision is to launch the Alchemy Healing Academy online school. The beginner program is going to be called Trojan Horse. My name is Odysseus, so it's a Trojan horse to awaken the soul of humanity. And my whole vision is to, like I said, build a tribe, build a community, and get more people and have more conversations. Where my goal is doing group calls where you can talk about what's coming up, and then having a whole school that teaches you how to do shadow work, how to do Taoist alchemy, how to apply 5 element theory into your life. I teach Chinese face reading. I have a whole wide range of different tools that I teach people. And I want to build a community where people can apply this and teach their family, teach their friends, heal their generational pain. And that's the vision. And I'm looking forward to doing all this beautiful work and supporting more souls in their journey and awakening the abundance that we have inherently within all of us. Thank
Lovely,
you.
lovely. So I guess we'll conclude it there. And yeah, lovely to chat with you, man. I'm sure you all enjoyed it. So this will be recorded now. It's been recorded on Zoom, so we'll be able to access it there. And we've got it on the Instagram Live. I'm sure they'll give me a copy. So yeah, any questions, if you feel free to DM us, and we'll chat to you all soon. Take care, guys.
Much love. Peace, y'all.
See you in a bit. See you in a bit. I'll share that in a sec.
Beautiful.
Um,
Great stuff, man.
it's still recording.
Yeah, we're still recording on the Zoom.
Yeah. Cool,
So
cool.
let me thank you to everybody who tuned into this. Always a pleasure and much love. And definitely check out Winners Only Fit and check out Academy. Support both of us, and we would love to support you. Peace,
Yeah.
y'all.